Around the central panel, you can see this men and women. These are the prophets and the sibyls. And down below, in the little triangles, this is where he painted the ancestor of Jesus Christ. So we have three levels, starting with the ancestor of Christ, down below, the prophet, a little bit higher, and right in the middle, the creation. Okay, let's start with the first panel, down below. The first panel represents the first day of the creation. God the Father separating light from darkness. The second one, the creation of the sun and the moon. The third one, the separation of the land and the sky. The fourth one, those famous pictures,
I like that one, yeah.
Adam's creation. Simply by getting closer to Adam's body, he was able to transfer a life energy in his body. He gave birth to Adam's. Next one is the creation of Eve. Eve is lifted up from Adam's body. And then, you know the story, temptation and expulsion from paradise. Okay, this is what we call the original sins. Because they took the apple and for that reason they were forced to run away from heaven. The last three panels represent Noah's story. So here is the flood. You can see, you can recognize Noah's Ark in the background, people trying to escape. After this one we have the sacrifice of Noah that was organized at the end, thanks God for the protection he had received. And the last pictures represent the drunkenness of Noah. These are kind of symbolic pictures. And all around I told you the prophets and sibyls. Who were sibyls? Sibyls were kind of fortune teller. According to the Greek and the Romans, they were kind of oracles that used to predict the futures. We say that Michelangelo combined together the pagan and the Christian prophets, all announcing the arrival of Christ. So we can see them down below. We actually say that even as a painter, Michelangelo was still a sculptor. That means he was looking at painting through the eyes of a sculptor. He was looking at volumes, massive. Some of these statues look so solid, so 3D, three-dimensional. And some of them, when you enter, they look like they're falling down on the people down below. So it's really, really incredible how much he was able to put, you know, solidity to the figures. And then I told you, down below we have the ancestor of Jesus Christ. So imagine 4 years to paint the ceiling. Okay? You probably know that the ceiling went through a long restoration. In 1980, they decided to clean the ceiling. Why clean it? Because in the past, the only way to illuminate the chapel was using candles. And the smoke of the candles moving up, be careful because it's not possible to step on the glass. Right? You know, the smoke was going up and had completely covered the ceiling. So everything was very black and dirty. In 1980, sorry. Sì, pronto? Sì, l'appuntamento è al Caffè Vaticano. Il Caffè Vaticano è quello che sta di fronte all'entrata. No, il Caffè Vaticano. Ok. Sì, ciao. Ok, and so I interrupt.
The candles.
Oh, the candles, the smoke. I was moving up, so they decided to clean the ceiling. So what they did, they spent a long time taking off the dirt, and what they found underneath was absolutely incredible. Everything was kept perfectly well. Because you know what a fresco is? A fresco is a painting on a wall, but to maintain what you're painting, you have to use a special technique invented by the Romans 2,000 years ago. What they do, they put layers of a wet plaster, and then the painter should paint when the plaster is still wet, fresco. Getting dry, the plaster absorbs the painting, and the painting is sealed in. So this dirt was simply covering the surface, but didn't affect the colors. So when they took off the dirt, they found the colors perfectly preserved. So we are very lucky because after so many years, we can still see the original colors made by Michelangelo. Absolutely fantastic. Have a look. This is before restoration, this is after.
Oh wow.
What a change. What a change. Now, this is not the end, because 20 years after, he was called back in the same chapel by another pope for another huge fresco, the last Judgment, which is the second masterpiece of Michelangelo as a painter. This fresco was painted in 6 years, between 1535 and 1541, and represent a completely different story. Not so happy like the beginning, but this is much more dramatic. The Last Judgment is showing Christ as a judge, represented with a gesture of condemnation. Look at all these people moving around. On the left-hand side, we have the lucky ones, the resurrection of the bodies, people moving up to heaven. Heaven is represented with angels holding the symbol of the crucifixion. On the other side, we see people falling down into hell, infernal regions down below. So people going up on the side, falling down on the other side. The main engine is Christ's gesture of condemnation. All around Jesus and the Virgin Mary, we have saints and martyrs of the church. Each one is showing the way he was killed. For example, the man sitting on a cloud, you see what he's doing? He's holding his skin. This man is Saint Bartholomew. We say that he was skinned alive. So this is why he's holding his skin. And actually, Michelangelo left his own portrait, his self-portrait, in the face of the skin. So the face of the skin is the only image of Michelangelo that we still have today. Oh, amazing. It's like his signature. St. Lawrence, St. Peter, St. Catherine, St. Sebastian. Look at this man pulled down into hell. You can tell he's not very happy. Now, when the fresco was finished, there was a big scandal in the church. A lot of people started to complain about the naked men and naked women painted by Michelangelo in the Last Judgment. You know, the church at that time was very strict, especially about nudity. Nudity was not accepted anymore. And one cardinal asked the Pope to destroy the fresco for that reason. Now, Vasari, a writer of the time, he said in his book that when Michelangelo discovered what the cardinal was saying, you know what he did? He came back in the chapel one night and he put the face of that cardinal in the fresco. Now, where do you think Michelangelo put that man? Right on top or down below?
Down below.
He represented him as the king of the underworld. Okay? Minos. So the face of Minos is actually the face of the cardinal. And of course, when the cardinal went back into the chapel the next day and saw his face, he was very angry, very upset. So immediately he went back to the Pope and he asked the Pope to do something. And you know what the Pope replied to his cardinal? He said, I'm sorry, I can do whatever you want for the people on top. I have no power down. Okay, he's still there. But anyway, as the controversy went on, later on a pupil of Michelangelo was called back into the chapel to cover the naked men and naked women. So all the pieces of clothing that you see everywhere, those were added by Domenico da Volterra, a pupil of Michelangelo. And this is why he was later on called the underpants designer of the chapel, because he spent a long time putting underpants everywhere. Now, if you consider all together, Michelangelo spent 4 years for the ceiling, 6 for the Last Judgment. That means that he spent 10 years of his life working and painting inside the Sistine Chapel. You probably know that the Sistine Chapel had such a strong impact in the art history of the time. In the art history, in the Western art history, we say before Michelangelo, after Michelangelo, because nobody else was able to paint anymore without considering what he did in the Sistine Chapel, which was absolutely new and absolutely revolutionary. Okay, we're moving on. So now we're moving on.